Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music, and I've been working on the music for the play Cyrano, Cyrano de Bergerac. It's a Rostand play of the mid 18th century about a cavalier swordsman with an unusually large nose that takes place actually 100 years before that. So it's a period piece. Well, I have a video up of the template, and I've modified that template, and I thought I would show you today my first test piece. Well, let's take a look at it. Well, after I make a template, my next step is to try to create a minute or two piece of music that sort of encapsulates the timbres, the ideas of what I think I'm going to be trying to get out in the score. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to play this for you, and then we'll go back and pick it apart a bit. This isn't going to be a very long video, but it is kind of a important first step in my process, and so I want to show it to you. Before we play it, let's talk a little bit about where we are and what we're trying to get done. So it's the early Baroque period, and so I have some touchstones compositionally, Lully, Couperin, and it's French. So I can't really use instruments that are outside of that period, really. And yet, I do want to create a little more modern flavor sometimes. And so I've stretched some of the harmonic vocabulary a bit. I'm trying to get the touchstones of the character of Cyrano and also his love interest and the sort of weird kind of like trio love dynamic that is built into the play, a sense of the danger, the swordsmanship, things like that. So I have a couple of different sort of vibes to touch on, and I start off with a little bit of Cyrano's panache and flair, his sort of unique stylistic pride, if you will. And then we go to kind of like a street scene with some drums, and maybe it's like for underscoring a battle or a sword fight. There's real aching romance in this play. And then we finally wind up this track with a touch of the religious kind of church music. The final scene takes place in the twilight of life, and there's a final sort of reconciliation, but it's a bittersweet reconciliation. Well, listen to this, and then we'll go back over some of the bits and bobs. Well, that was the work of a of an afternoon, basically, after I'd set up the template. And of course, the template has a lot going on besides just choosing instruments. I'm controlling a number of things like the usual tracking elements like EQ, compression, a couple of reverbs, a little bit of compression on the output bus as well. But mostly I want to talk about the thematic ideas and textures. So let's take a look at the first one. Listen, the very first theme is this kind of strange little gesture on the violin. You can see it right there. And this is not a period gesture at all, is it? And yet it really has a lot to do with the sense of panache and flair that Cyrano exhibits. What we do is we go up a dominant chord, the A dominant, to the minor third of D minor, and all this is in D minor, and then right down a diminished chord to this low A, and it's kind of a sort of a pretty strong flavor, and I'm doubling it in the therobo and also in harpsichord. It's exactly the same thing. The therobo then creates a little propulsive energy. The drums punctuate, and we're off to the races now. Psaltery, which is a sort of a hammered or plucked zither type instrument. Therobo, which is kind of a luty, guitar-y thing. And the hurdy-gurdy all just kind of create a street scene now. The daf is actually a Persian hand drum, but it's perfect for this medieval quality. You can see that's a lot of notes, right, between the therobo and the psaltery. And basically, though, it's kind of all about that sort of D harmonic minor sound. And of course, everything is accelerating. And the next thing that happens is just sort of an inverted version of the theme that we heard at the top. The viola and recorders come in doubling. And here you'll see it happen. It's just down that scale again. It's a beautiful moment, that moment right there. That big build-up ends with a chord on the clavichord, just a D minor chord. And the D minor chord is supporting a sustained tone in the viola, or I'm thinking of it as kind of a viola da gamba, on the ninth, right? So that ninth has a kind of a bittersweet quality against the chord. Listen to how it works again. It sort of emerges from the mist, as it were. At this point, I've started to bring in the organ, and we'll also hear some choir. Organ and choir just creating a sort of a sense of mystery, religious mystery, if you will. And we're following a very simple script harmonically here, which is the descending bass line going down in steps. first contrary motion, you can see the difference between the direction of the bass and the direction of the upper voice in the organ. That creates a really kind of beautiful effect. And then a high pedal note, an A, against a descending motion in kind of all the voices in a way. There's a little change in the tenor. You see it slips up and down. But that sort of quality gives this beautiful sort of sense of kind of like counterpoint. All right, going on, and this is the last sequence. We're back to the descending bass line. Strong on magnetic chord, and then the simplest of resolutions, 1-5-1. My director loved this, and a good part of my test music pieces is to demonstrate to the director what I think I can do, what we can expect to get out of each individual section, and to sort of get them on board with the musical vocabulary, the timbral vocabulary of what the plan is. It's very difficult to talk about music with your director or other designers, and so I find it useful to have a showpiece that just kind of like lays out the ideas. I may never use this piece in the show, and yet it gets me going and gets everyone on board and gives us something to talk about. Well, I hope this has been useful. Like and subscribe, ding the bell. You'll be notified when I do my videos if you do that. And I'll see you next time.